Well, I am thrilled to have Catherine Robertson with us today. And Catherine is on the panel of Bridging the Gap Between Broadcast and Digital for the Digital Ministry Conference coming up next week. Catherine, welcome.
Thank you. I feel welcome.
Well, you have been leading EagleCom marketing up in Canada for the past 24 years as the founder and president. And so you've seen a lot of the landscape change between starting the broadcast arena, and then along comes this thing called the internet, and how some ministries have been more earlier adopters than others. Then you have mobile coming along, and then social media. And so, I'm really excited about this session because we're going to have some industry leaders like yourself just talk about what are some of the things that we can be doing to help bridge that gap between broadcast and digital. And so if you could just share with us some of your background, what are the things that you've experienced that in the broadcast space over the last 24 years?
Well, it's interesting, Chad, because my career has actually spanned 45 years, if you can believe it. So in some ways...
so you must have started when you were about 5 years old.
Yeah, something like that. And you could say it's a mix of things that have changed every day from the beginning, but at the same time, some fundamental things haven't changed. And I'm looking forward to exploring that a little bit more during your conference, because what hasn't changed is we still have to reach people with messages, and we still have to do that in an effective way. And I have dedicated my entire career to being on the media planning and buying side, if you will, of advertising, marketing, messaging. And so I have worked for different agencies, and then, as you mentioned, started EagleCom 24 years ago to really come alongside those that want to deliver a message to the right people at the right time, in the right way, and for the right reason.
You know, Catherine, I love what you said about even though things are constantly changing as it relates to tactics, as it relates to channels, there are some things that there are principles that don't change over time. And as you've thought about that, what are some of those principles that you've seen that don't really change, they're timeless?
What doesn't change, Chad, is people are people, and people have to be motivated to some sort of action. And ideally, we're motivating people to good actions. But, you know, the human mind and heart wants to be affirmed, wants to be motivated, and people are looking for insight. That hasn't changed in my mind. On the other hand, there are media vehicles. And while they look different today than they might have 45 years ago when I was putting a lot of ads in newspapers, in some ways that hasn't changed. Mediums are just carriers of messages. So whether you're talking about a pigeon or skywriting or social media, these are just vehicles to get a message to that person you're actually trying to reach. And so I just love the study of people and the study of message carriers. And it's really bringing those together that makes the difference.
Wow, that is really good. Just the whole concept that, I mean, I, in a lot of ways, live in the tech world, live in the tech side of the world. When have done some programming, and I don't claim to be a programmer right now, but so many times us in the tech world, we can think, oh man, here's the latest gadget, here's the latest tool, here's the latest thing. All we need to do is do this, and then everything will be great. But at the end of the day, like what you said, it is about what it is that we're communicating. It's about the messaging and being able to touch people's heartstrings, not just being able to give them black and white, but how do we make that color, bring that alive in color for them? So that's
you know, it's really tempting for most of us to think of what vehicle should we use. Clients will say to me, you know, should I use radio? Should I use internet or digital mediums, or what should I do? And I usually say, yes. Let's get past the what, or as you say, what's that technical gadget? It's what are we asking people to do, and what are we really trying to convey to them?
So what are some of the ways that you've seen ministries or radio stations work to bridge that gap between broadcast and digital, especially in the recent years?
Bridging that gap has been easier for some than others. And I've watched all of us really be intimidated at some stage. But the best thing we can all do is just embrace it. And that's why I do continually remind people about this. We're really just trying to convey messages, and the medium we choose to do that might change from day to day. So that sounds very fundamental, but if a ministry organization, for instance, just realizes that, you know what, there is a fundamental message I'm trying to convey, so what are all the avenues I can use to do that? Traditionally, they've maybe been doing that through broadcast, through radio, through television, and they've probably done some direct messaging through their direct mail pieces and email, of course. But then comes along this whole arena and this place where they know people are going to get content and information and inspiration. And we call it the internet, we call it the digital space, we call it all kinds of things. And it has various personalities. And what the ministry organization needs to do, and most have, quite honestly, Chad, by now they have to some degree embraced that people are there, and they're trying to learn who goes there and when do they go there and how do they go there. And the best advice I could give is drop all your paradigms about doing that with broadcast vehicles and just embrace the digital world in a different way. Fundamentally, let's just reach people. But how we do it and the mechanics of that are different between all the mediums. And that's why organizations like yours are so valuable, because you guide people through that.
Oh, that's so good. And just realizing that some folks are uncomfortable. I mean, we've been doing something for the same way for so many years, and then we're being asked to do something different. I know, just as an aside on that, as an example, my mother, who has a very thriving business, it's in the sales arena, network marketing, and she gets most of her contacts now through social media. So she is actually more active on Facebook than I am. And but she has done what you just said. She's embraced it. And I think there's an element of, as an organization, learning to embrace it, but also as individuals learning to embrace it. What about with COVID-19 and everything that we've experienced the last couple, 3 months? How have you seen that impacting the broadcast space?
One of the things we study a lot are people, and while I don't like broad brushing any group, there are some generational differences and trends, and we've all seen some really fun things around that. The differences between a boomer and a millennial, there's no question, those have to be studied. I would say what ended up happening through COVID-19 is almost another layer went over all the generations, and it forced everyone to change their habits almost overnight. So, for instance, the very obvious is television viewing went up. Radio listening went up at certain times, such as through the day, when people turned their radios on in their homes, and down at some of the driving times.
So that kind of flipped it around on the radio side, right?
Indeed it did. What we've had to look at is not just media habits and the time within our lifestyle, but also the mindset that we've been in. We've been in a mindset for months, like, I need to know what is going on. I think we all started needing to track the charts every hour, and then that eased off a little. But we have been very news hungry, and we don't want to be left behind on what's going on. Even now, as we're phasing back in, I know across Canada, across the US, and all the regions are very different. And so what is your phase versus what's my phase, and what does that all look like? And I actually think we're going to get another batch of fun memes that'll come out about phasing back in. And we'll be laughing about that. But I feel like, to answer your question, what we've had to look at as marketers and messengers is what are people doing with their time, but also what is their mindset? How are they inspired? And we've had catastrophic events that then got layered on top of that. And we're learning by the hour what motivates people.
I think you just described some of the best the best description of how we as a people group, and I mean all people groups as humanity is in the North America, United States and Canada are responding, how our habits are changing. Some of those things I had never considered. I'm just curious how, as you observe people, as you observe trends, where are some of the sources you go to really be able to get a sense for how those trends are being shaped?
Yes, great question. On one hand, you can't consume all the content that's available. On the other hand, you want to curate it and make sure you're looking at reputable sources.
Yeah.
It's a real combination, Chad. We have a number of us on our staff who are just trying to look through all the research studies. You know, Barna's come out with all kinds of things. We've got the different media analysis groups, like we have Numeris and we have Nielsen, and we've got all these different companies who are tracking. Some of the media companies have been doing their own surveys to really put benchmarks every few weeks as to how people are responding, not only to media consumption, but to just the world in general and their lifestyles and so on. So I would say we've just got a myriad of research reports that come across our desk, and we try to go through those. I learn from other people. You know, there's some very wise people post great information, even on social media and online. You need to track your sources and follow who you can trust. But there's a lot of wisdom out there, and we have very wise clients too. I mean, we specialize in the Christian ministry organization realm, and many of them are talking to their people. I like getting anecdotal information too. I spend a lot of time just doing one-on-one surveys with friends and colleagues and people, and I track that. And it might not be a survey of thousands, but sometimes you can get some very meaningful information just listening to people. What are they doing? What are they thinking?
That is excellent. Just learning to listen. And folks, as you can tell, Catherine has a wealth of knowledge, and just hearing her share some of the sources that she is on top of on a regular basis. Again, we're thrilled to have her come and share more of her wisdom at the Digital Ministry Conference next week. Catherine, who do you feel would be a really good person to be attending this session on bridging the gap between broadcast and digital?
I guess my answer to that, Chad, would be anyone who has a message they would like to get to someone else because they want to have a positive impact on their lives. And that's what I feel personally called to do in my career. That's what our company is dedicated to doing. And I know that I can speak for you on that as well, and all of our clients. And I know that's very general, but I guess I say that on purpose. You know, I have much to learn from the attendees to your conference, and we can learn from each other. But what I believe we will all share is a calling to reach people with a message that will make a difference in their lives.
That is fantastic. Catherine, thanks so much for joining us today. And again, we're thrilled and excited to have you on the panel next week. And again, so just for everybody, please make sure to register, sign up, invite your team to come. Go to digitalministryconference.com, and registration is free. There's no charge for it. So please invite your team to hear from Catherine and many others just like her. Thanks so much.
Thank you.